Staying in the UK, one has to ask, does the country now have quasi-blasphemy laws, or perhaps I should just call them blasphemy laws? We have a man who burnt a copy of the Quran, his own copy, and shouted in Turkish that Islam is religion of terrorism. Well, Douglas, he's been convicted of a religiously aggravated public order offence and fined.
You're completely right, Rita. This is simply a blasphemy law. If somebody were to set light to a Bible, everybody would be running out saying this man has an absolute right to do so. The churches would be falling over themselves to demonstrate it. It would probably win the Turner Prize or some other art prize for being so daring. But no, the holy book of modern Britain, as so many other Western democracies now, is the Quran. It's the holy book in that even the people who've never opened it and don't know what's in it know that that is the thing that has to be protected. So whether you're an autistic school child in the north of England who accidentally drops the Quran on the floor, that child's mother will have to sit in front of effectively a Sharia council and beg for the life of her child in Britain in the 21st century. If you're a school teacher in Batley and some deranged, semi-educated parent alleges that a teacher has said something blasphemous about Islam, then that teacher goes into hiding and is still in hiding to this day. And if you burn a Quran, it turns out that's the holy book, that's the thing you mustn't touch. It's not just a blasphemy law. It's a blasphemy law that the state is allowing to be pushed through by threat of force. Because nobody is doing an argument here, There's no good argument for why the Quran has to be treated as the holiest of holy books. No, it's only that intimidation, violence, and thuggery seems to work. And I thought that was the sort of thing that the law was there to protect us against.
Absolutely. Now let's go to the US, and you've written in The Spectator about the derangement of Harvard. The Ivy League college is currently at war with the Trump administration. We had those more than 30 Harvard University student organisations signing a letter, Douglas, literally whilst October 7 victims were still being uncovered, blaming the Israeli regime entirely for the unfolding violence. Tell me what's happening at Harvard. How did this prestigious Ivy League college become such a hotbed of hatred and hostility?
Well, it's well documented. As you said, Rita, the students at places like Harvard from the 7th of October 2023 onwards were making it clear which side they were on. They were saying in a joint letter written on the 7th of October that the Israeli government, not Hamas, the Israeli government was responsible for all violence. And since then, students at Harvard and other elite universities have been allowed to rampage across university, shut down student accommodations and places of study, intimidate and beat up employees, and basically act as low-level copycats of the thugs of Hamas that they seem to admire so much. But the real thing is, Rita, we should all congratulate these students at Harvard and Princeton and Columbia and elsewhere. Congratulations to them. They've spent the last 18 or so months calling for the intifada, the uprising, violent terrorist uprising, to be globalized. And well done, guys, you've got your way. Because not only do you have 2 people shot in the streets of Washington, D.C. on suspicion of being Jewish, you now have in Colorado Islamist supporters of Hamas trying to burn to death Jewish people who are trying to call for the peaceful release of the hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza. So well done, students at Harvard. Well done, all the students at Princeton and Yale and the rest of them. You're getting your globalized intifada. I hope you love it.
Well, we have seen that shocking rise in anti-Semitic violence in the US. The 2 incidents you mentioned, and just a short time before that, a matter of weeks, we had a governor's house burnt down. It's just such an escalation, and yet Douglas, if it was a right-wing movement behind these acts, one after another, I would imagine the reaction would be a little bit more serious than what we're getting here, because these are targeted attacks. They are an acts of domestic terrorism. And I wonder whether the authorities are looking at them as seriously as they should.
Well, we've got equivalents we can pull out. I mean, how many years was it now? 6 years ago or so since Jussie Smollett. Remember him, a low-grade actor in America, claimed that in the middle of the night in Chicago, he had been assaulted by two MAGA Trump supporters and racially abused, and had a noose put around his neck and poison thrown at him, and all sorts of other things. And he just made allegations, which of course turned out to be a total crock. He'd hired two big black Nigerian guys to be the local white supremacist MAGA people. But anyway, remember when Jussie Smollett pulled that fake hoax hate crime? Within hours, every leading Democrat, Kamala Harris, all these Hollywood people, all the talk show hosts, all said we have to have a reckoning as a country that this could happen here, that low-grade actors could be assaulted by people they've hired from Nigeria to fake hate crime. Oh, we've got to have a national rethink of everything, guys. But when real things are happening in real time, and the object of the hate is Jews, no, because Jews aren't one of the cool minorities in the left-wing intersectional world. And you know what's not cool with them either? Is reality. They're fine talking up the fakes and the hoaxes and the ghouls and the banshees that they imagine are lingering everywhere. But when reality is right in front of them, they'll continue to do everything they can to avoid it.
And we've seen the media use some very imaginative words. Instead of saying Jews or pro-Israel, I think one of them was pro-Gaza hostage release activist. There was some bizarre wording that NBC used. Yes. Before you go, just on Harvard, the university's tolerance for anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli sentiment seems boundless. In recent days, we heard another speech at a Harvard graduation ceremony, this time by Zara Imam, again, all about Palestine.
There are no safe zones left in Gaza after 600 days and 77 years of genocide. I center Palestine today not just because of its scale of atrocity, but because of our complicity in it. Together, we must refuse to be ruled by the tyrants of our time because our liberations are intertwined.
There you go, Douglas. 77 years of genocide. These are the best and brightest. These are Harvard graduates.
Yeah, she obviously doesn't have a dog in that fight, does she? She's covered in her kefir and so on. As I mentioned in the Spectator last week, one of the many interesting things is the toxic mix we see here of real bigotry and real hatred, real sectarianism, as displayed by that young woman there, and all the time with the fatal additional mixtures to the cocktail of fanatical ignorance and narcissism. And the narcissism is, who do you think you are? You're a student at Harvard. You're one of the luckiest kids in one of the luckiest generations of all time. And you seem to be under the impression that the war in the Middle East that Hamas started is somehow being directed from Harvard University. And I've got news for those students. Neither Hamas nor the Israeli government take any direction from Harvard University or any other privileged Ivy League campus. There's a world beyond the end of your own nose. And these students haven't been taught that. They haven't been taught anything. They certainly haven't been taught any humility. And so, no, they think that the world is going to be run on their terms. Well, the sooner they grow up and learn otherwise, the better. But in the meantime, yes, they'll just continue this toxic cocktail of advocacy, endless prejudice against people they feel able to be prejudiced against, and wild, wild narcissism.
Douglas Murray, beautifully said. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Great pleasure as always.